Today's the third day of the March-April 1986 retreat. At first, an announcement. During almost all the time that I'm not in the sitting room, the chair that I'm sitting on, the balanced chair, is available for anybody who wishes to use it, either use it right where it's sitting or take it to your place. That also holds for listening to a talk. If you would like to sit on that chair and feel more comfortable, feel free to do so. We hadn't quite finished yesterday with things that had been brought up in meetings about working for a goal. And the questions that come up about it. One person said, if I hadn't had a goal, I wouldn't even be here. Can one look at a question or a statement like this carefully? Noticing at the same time how quickly one can react just to the impact of a sentence without examining it. Either a sentence put to one or a sentence that one says oneself. In saying it or in possibly reacting to it, is one justifying goals? Justification always meaning not looking. If I begin to justify something, and I'm not examining afresh what something is, what it means to me, my relationship to it, my possible attachment to it. The insecurity if it is questioned or taken away. There's so much, such richness in just looking. Beyond this veneer of words in which we're caught. Not just intellectually, but also emotionally. Sentimentally. Coming back to the statement, if I had never had any goals, I wouldn't be here. Clearly, doesn't mean one doesn't examine how one came here or what one is doing here, because this is essentially what this place is for. One may not use it this way, and this is up to each person coming here. But the work that goes on here in talks and meetings is to examine, question, and listen, not just examining, questioning ad infinitum, but once a vital question has come up and been put, then one has to listen and look in the light of the question. So, after all that we've discussed and talked together about goals, can one look and examine what goals one has as one sits down, as one comes here. And in the looking, in the questioning, in the listening, seeing motives for wanting to attain things, wanting to become an enlightened person, examining all of that, questioning where it comes from, where one once picked it up, what it does to one, helping one out of the doldrums to think of that, going after it, going for it. Which means not investigating the doldrums. The dullness one finds oneself in so often, the lack of energy, the sadness, depression. Seeing what arousing the goal in the mind does, how it divides from what is there, beckoning to be looked at, beckoning to get some open windows for air and sunshine to come in. So maybe in this way of working, a motive will drop, will disappear, will be seen through, will be finished, even though one came with a goal. And one may find out that one can sit, walk, look, work, listen, much freer, much ampler and wider and deeper, without this nagging motive and goal. Much more thoroughly, because come the moment of depression, discouragement, what is it? What is it if I don't raise the goal of getting over this in the course of time? At that, if I do raise the goal of getting over this in the course of time, again, there has been postponement of facing what's there, which is our human history. Sounding the bugles and drums and manufacturing the arms for war rather than facing poverty, difficulties. I don't want to get into that, not right now. So having looked at what brought one here, which is memory, reflecting upon the memory, can one drop one's past history and work with what is manifesting now? Actually, what is manifesting now is the totality of our past history. It's right here to be examined, and the way we react this instant to a thought, to an emotion. Since we're not talking here with each other and working just very briefly together, very little interpersonal problems arise. They do arise plenty in one's reflections and memories as one sits. What I'm saying is, in our present reaction, either to a thought, to an emotion, or to another human being, our whole past is involved. manifests itself. It can be observed right here and now, in the way we hurt ourselves and in the way we may hurt another, or in the way we want to be loved by another, want to look to another. It's still the little child and all that was built up on top. That's here. That's what's responding. So with this, let us come to the main topic of this talk, which is attention, awareness. I'm not differentiating at this time between these two words. Because, of course, this is a question that comes up most frequently in meetings. What really is attention? Or a person saying in listening and reflecting, I think maybe I've never been attentive in the way it's being talked about here. There's always been a felt dualism between the attender and what is being attended to. So maybe dropping or putting aside, putting out of the way everything that we've heard, read, remembered, made up as a little formula for ourselves what attention is, can we start together from scratch? Maybe looking in front of us, one can see this here. It's new, so that's nice to use it. Seeing in front of oneself whatever one is seeing in front of oneself. I'm referring to this. If somebody only sees this here, well then look at that. But can there be a simple perception of this here? The color, the lines, the shapes, these little dots here and the knots, the variation of hues, the odor that arises from it. These dividing lines. Can there be a simple perception of that? And can one see clearly that the word floor is not this? The word floor refers to this in general, but the word floor is not what is perceived simply. Does one see that? That the word is not what the word is referring to. One can put more words to it. This is our new floor. We just put it down. It was just put down. Which are statements, descriptive statements, but not this. Can one also see that as one verbalizes about this thing that can be simply perceived, there are associations taking place in the mind. If one has participated in putting the floor down, just looking at it can lead to the memory of how it was put down, the work involved, the problems involved, the interrelationship involved, how one came to pick this floor rather than an oak floor or a maple floor. All of this has been laid down in memory and linked together. Because whatever happens contiguously in time and space, meaning together, is laid down like that in the brain, is neurologically connected. So when one thing is thought about, the whole connection of associations is available to come on the screen, on this, whatever it is. Nobody really knows how this is perceived in the brain. There is some kind of a, let's just call it screen, the word not being what's actually happening. Words are helpful for you and me to communicate with each other, and yet bearing in mind that the words are not the actuality, not what they're referring to. So one may start out sitting down, seeing this thing, and immediately the mind travels the pathway of these associations. And at that moment, no simple perception is taking place. What is now in the foreground is the movie screen, the computer screen, where all of what happened is being lived through again, remembered. That's one train of association. It has as many permutations as there are feelings about this thing. One may think how nice this is, how well this was put together, these little, what are they called? Stoppers? Plugs. Wondering how so many could have been put in there, and what a marvelous job, and how nice that I belong to a center that has such marvelous people who do such marvelous work. It's an important association. It's my place, too, one thinks. One is identified with it. So just from a simple perception of this, the mind wanders to where it usually wants to dwell, namely on me. Either as the creator of this, or the co-creator. One has, of course, humility. Or the member of a place, as marvelous as this, who can produce stuff like that. And then one wonders, where is the attention? One started out just with a simple perception. One may also, if one is into oak floors, wonder why no oak floor was put into this place. I'm just using this as an example. I don't like white pine. It's impractical, it's this or that, it's cheap looking. Why not oak or maple? Something else. Again, which is a very common, almost inevitable occurrence. One sees something and then evaluates. Do I like it? Or compares it with something better? Doesn't like it and think of what else, of an alternative? Again, the screen is now full of what one would have rather seen. Maybe there arises argumentativeness with the people who made the decision. Internal the thought, if I had been consulted, I would have added to the discussion, or maybe this would have prevailed because I know it would have been better. Again, the me there, feeling it has been slighted or has not been listened to or could have done better. Incidentally, all of these reactions being the essence of the me. Liking and disliking, knowing, all are past, involved in leaving a simple perception and following the road, the network of associations. These associations make up this me, the seer, the evaluator, the judge, or the one who's identified with it. And therefore there is a division, a conflict between this and something here that reacts with like and dislike, with knowledge, with associations. Do you see that? So the question that comes up quite naturally is, I'll say later why I say naturally. A natural question out of what has been said is it possible to perceive simply without the network of association which constitutes this feeling of me? These associations, I don't know if I went into that, being capable of triggering intense either pleasure, anger, feeling of competitiveness. All of our emotions triggerable through these associations. So, isn't that a viable question to wonder whether there can be simple perception without trailing or enervating, setting into motion this whole complex pattern of me? And I'm not talking about now that one actually does sit down and decide on what kind of a floor to put in. Then it's valuable to have knowledge about different floors, how they last, how they will bear up, how easy, how expensive. And even there in a meeting among people who are deciding this, does one remain with simple facts, perception of simple facts, or does it become important who wins out? Or will one see that and drop it immediately as it is seen, as being destructive to a harmonious working together? If one sees it, it can be dropped. If one doesn't see it, there is this conviction that one is right. One doesn't see this me that wants to be affirmed, appreciated, or followed. One is convinced that one has the right facts, or the better facts. I said the question comes up naturally in seeing the operation of the network of association with a simple perception, how it divides, separates the seer and thinker and feeler and emoter from what's there. The question is not naturally coming up if the thinker, the feeler, the perceiver wants to be more perfect than he is already, that he already thinks he or she is. Or wipe out imperfection and be a simple perceiver, become a simple perceiver. I don't know whether I put that clearly. If in seeing the hindrance, the divisiveness of all these associations, if one says, can these associations be gotten rid of in order to be somebody without associations, a happier person, a better person, a more perceptive person, or whatever the image is, then it is just a perpetuation of this whole network of association. Do you see that? The me wants to become a better me. The me wants to drop its bad features, its divisiveness, and become whole. But it is still in the same realm of thinking and associating and becoming. Do you see that? Then if there's the me wanting to be, having that goal of attaining simple perception, will almost immediately ask, what is a technique to get there? Give me a method. Sometimes people say, tell me anything. I'm willing to follow anything just to get out of this misery, out of this conflict, out of this feeling of isolation. I can tell how I just would do anything to be rid of it. And can one see the danger of that? Because that's what we've been doing. Becoming attached or chained to systems and people in order to attain a goal. The goal that one imagines or that is being promised may be attainable, but the process in which it happened has become a new conditioning of the mind. Which, now that one has attained a goal, one feels needs to be venerated, perpetuated, or propagated among other people. And the importance of seeing clearly, of perceiving, simply has been lost in the attachment to a system with all that goes with this attachment. Dependency. So, where does one ask from? Is it possible to perceive simply? Can the divisiveness itself be seen, the isolation be seen of being someone who judges, who finds fault, who gets angry, or lost in the pleasure of past remembered incidences? The split. Can that actually be seen? in a simple perception that does not judge, does not want anything better, but just sees what's there out of a quietness and space that has no link with this network of associations of the past. The thought, how can I get it, comes out of the past, out of the structure of the me. But listening to the thought come up, how can I get it, just seeing it, hearing it, without doing anything about it, is not connected with anything ever done in the past. Attention or awareness is not the past, it's always here. And it is never the future. Future is thought. Awareness is here. We started as an example by looking at this in front of us, which is called floor. And maybe in quietly, openly looking, even though the word floor or not or beige may come up, one can see these are words which are not what is right here, and the words may not stay or sprout. A reaction coming up, I don't like it or I like it, can be seen as a reaction and abate, because it's clear that the reaction to the floor is not this, that it is a moving away into the personal, the whole realm of the personal. In looking at another person is not that simple as looking at a floor. And yet it's the same processes that we've gone through are at work. In seeing a person who's close to one, one's friend, boyfriend or girlfriend, husband or wife, father or mother. We'll talk about those because there it seems to be especially difficult to see and respond without this network of associations which dates back into the not even remembered past, yet memories are there, but they are not available to the conscious mind. Is it possible to see one's father, mother, husband, wife, or friends, the boss, freely, openly, imageless, well aware that memories are there? They may come up, but seeing these as memories and as blurring the vision of what's the simple perception of what's right in front of one, of who is right in front of one, right now. Not a year or 10 years or 30 years ago, but now. Seeing the reactions come up, the person may have said something that, as the present expression goes, pushes one's buttons. Can one attend to this, to the buttons being pushed and what comes out with interest? Or is it impossible? Are we so automatic, so programmed, that it's impossible to shed light, the light of awareness, on an automatic, conditioned reaction, conditioned response in the face of someone there now? Or can the attention see the person free from the associations of the past, even though they want to come up, but attention sees that they want to come up, but sees the blurring of it and wants to perceive the person simply. And also sees, feels, listens to, you can use whatever word is the most helpful, the buttons being pushed, the reactions wanting to come up, but understanding at a glance that when these reactions take over, there is no relationship. There's only past images responding, sparring with, or usually it's that, with past images. There's nothing real or alive if these associations and the conditioned reactions have the field. Do we see that? I think that's very clear. Intellectually, this is very clear, isn't it? That there's not two live, present people communicating or relating. It is idea relating or trying to relate to ideas on the basis of what happened in the past. And what happened in the past, the memory of that is incomplete as can be. How can we ever remember what really happened if we only see limited things, conditioned by what we're afraid to see or don't want to see or want to see? So our memories are highly inaccurate. And yet it's on the basis of these inaccurate memories of each other that we respond to each other most of the time, unless something entirely new comes into being, which is an awareness that is free from memory, albeit can see memory, its nature and its consequences, its effects, and therefore be free of it. I think this takes another ingredient. It takes really a passionate interest in another human being, as well as in these processes that make up our human body mind and make it so inordinately difficult to relate to each other lovingly. I'll carefully use the word forgivingly, because when there is no image, there is nothing to be forgiven. I have no image of myself as the hurt person, or the person in front of me as the hurter. What is there to be forgiven? Then there is a fresh meeting. The other person may not meet me freshly. That can be a fact. Can that be seen without wanting it to be otherwise, without trying to manipulate the person? Just to see where this person is coming from, to understand it. Yes, it's memory, it's incomplete memory, it's the hurt of it, or the desire of it. And oneself freely seeing and yet not responding in a conditioned way. Because this attention is energy. And energy has this power of not falling into the network of associations which are automatic. Not automatic in the presence of this attention, which is energy. They're unplugged, as it were. The juice going to set this whole cycle going is not flowing. It's in the attention. The energy is in the attention. And any kind of energy that wants to come up in anger, when it is seen, also becomes the energy of attention. I think that transfer happens. It feels that way. So can one see how crucial it is in our relationship to see now, at the crucial point? It's all right to see later, in retrospect, but then the damage, if it was anger or jealousy, whatever, has already been done, and then there has to be a wiping up of it all. There are regrets. And yet, seeing can take place anytime and disconnect automatisms that normally run this body-mind of a human being. Not mine or yours, it's universally so. How does one come upon this attention? This is a question asked time and time again. And there is no answer to it. Either it happens or it doesn't happen. It seemed to happen when there is this passionate understanding of what happens if it's not there, not just personally, but universally among human beings, the tragedy of our relationships. On a small level and globally, one doesn't have to look far. These days one can bring it right into the living room through the television newscast. The relating to each other on the basis of words that are linked historically to ancient traditions of differences in religion, in ideology, in nationality. The communists, the Reds, the capitalists, the Muslims, Jews, Arabs. The murderer, the rapist. The word is not that person. Does one see that? We've seen it here with the floor. The word floor is not this. The word communist or rapist or whatever is not that person. What is that person? I don't know. I've never seen him without the word. How can I tell? I must drop the word and all my associations with these words to meet face to face. Not label to label. This is how we meet now. Memory to memory. Somebody said in a meeting, why is it that this attention comes I don't remember how he put it, when something like when the bubble bursts and I sit in the shit. Then there's some attention. But as the shit is cleaned up, or one gets used to it, I don't know whether one can ever get used to it. Maybe it's not the best of language. But I think it's very, very descriptive. The description not being the situation of pain, conflict, agony, misery in which one finds oneself. And then maybe there is no choice but to attend. No, there's choice to escape or to put an end to one's life, which is also preferring something to what is there. There's also a goal involved there. But if one will not escape, one has seen escapes have taken one nowhere. Taking one's life is no solution. Then there may be the whole situation may be a passionate one in which attention arises. And one sees what has brought this all about, how it has come to pass, as understanding and maybe a freeing from the agony through this understanding. And then this person said, things become sort of comfortable again. The crisis is over, and the dreaming continues, dreaming. Why? That is the question. Does it need a crisis? Because in a crisis, it's clear. In a crisis, there's tremendous energy to survive. And with this energy to survive, we need to see clearly what's the way out of the burning house. Or not how to, but just pulling someone else out of the house or out of a flooded river. Often there's no thought, no weighing. There is somebody drowning and one jumps in. There's no reflection about it. It's the immediacy of the crisis and the action are not two separate things. It's one process. It's actually, I remember during the war, air attacks, or after the war, this incredible misery of people, that everybody almost was a displaced person, having escaped from some place to go someplace else where there wasn't anything much either. Just a trek of displaced persons. And yet very often in meeting or together there seemed to be some immediacy of relationship. Maybe the shared fate, the crisis, the having been disillusioned with all the goals that had been held up for winning a war. And this was not just a personal feeling, it was shared by many people. There was more immediacy. There were human beings relating to each other. Hardly anybody had new clothes, or there were more basic things. Shared fear, shared agony, and shared love at times. But then as things got built up, comfortable acquisitions, possessions, then the distance set in again. So, continuing this thought, why is not every moment a crisis? Which it is, if we're inattentive. This is not said moralistically or sermonizingly, it's fact. In the moment one is inattentive, anything can happen. Because one is unautomatic. And whatever reactions are elicited, come forth. They may be totally inappropriate or hurtful or divisive actions. So can one glimpse this moment that when there's inattention, there's a crisis. Crisis of wrongdoing, not in a moralistic but in an absolute sense. Isolating oneself or hurting someone. Dividing oneself up into a million different factions. It's a tremendous crisis born by each moment of inattention. Does that gather energies for attention? Only if one sees it, right? If one doesn't see the crisis of the moment, then, or the danger of the moment, then what is comfortable and habit itself is comfortable. Habit itself gives a sense of security, no matter what the habit is. Just to have that habit, one doesn't have to think, one doesn't have to choose. It's familiar. That's a crisis. That's a danger. Can attention shed light on that? Not in order to get something out of it, who knows, but to avert the crisis. Of acting inappropriately in relationship. All of this maybe seems to make attention out as a tremendous thing to be so difficult to have, but it is actually without effort. We have to talk about this some other time. This whole question of effort which comes up in meetings. Effort is the me wanting that against all resistance, and that's why it has to expend effort. It wants that. But that's not attention, that's the me in action. Wanting to become an attentive me, which is impossible. The me, when the me is in action, there's the crisis. There's the automatism of wanting, fearing, attachment to habits. Attention sheds light on this, but it has no me in there that wants anything or withdraws from anything. It's completely as free as that wind there. Has no substance, no goals. Nothing, just shedding light, that's all. And giving birth to intelligent action, intelligent response, loving response. Because when the me isn't there, there's nothing in the way. We will end here for today.